BC approved a big new mine last week. Real jobs and good news. But then the same BC government took a bow for the very law that froze everybody else's mine. Only in British Columbia. I'm Jordan Bateman, and this is episode 2 of ICBA Coffee Construction, the news that matters to the people who build British Columbia and Alberta. It's Wednesday morning, June 24th, and today, a mine, a data center gold rush, and a pipeline deadline. My coffee's hot, so let's go. Friday, June 19th, the province sent out a news release saying it had approved the Red Chris mine expansion. That's in northwest BC, up in the Golden Triangle, about 80 clicks south of Dease Lake. It's owned by Newmont, who's the biggest gold producer on the planet, and Imperial Metals. This pit goes underground, a block cave mine that will now be open into the 2040s, up to 15 million tons of ore a year. And the jobs, about 1,800 at peak construction and another 1,500 permanently protected. Up north, that's not just a paycheck, that's a lifeline for their communities. And it got done with a negotiated partnership with the Tahltan Nation. A signed deal, benefits and jobs on both sides. Two parties at a negotiating table, not a courtroom, because that's how you build. But here's the spin you're going to hear, so let me just get ahead of it now. Premier David Eby, he's going to tell you that Red Chris proves his reconciliation law, the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act, is working. Don't buy it. DRIPA is a disaster. Because that same law is exactly what a court used back in December in the Gitsala ruling to tear up BC's mineral tenure system and freeze mining and exploration across the province. Red Chris didn't get approved because of DRIPA. It got approved because a company in the nation sat down and cut a deal in spite of the uncertainty of Eby's framework. So one approval is good, but it doesn't solve everything. It doesn't thaw the freeze. It doesn't make sure that the next project is any more certain. Which brings us to the next big gold rush in construction, data centers. And I know there's mixed feelings on artificial intelligence and certainly on data centers, but let's talk about this from a construction point of view. You got to start with the number first. In Alberta, the AESO, the agency that runs the power grid, just handed out the last of its first round of grid hookups for these big new power users. Their 1,200 megawatts are gone, fully spoken for, and the lineup of data centers still waiting is several times that. So why does a builder care? Because these things are enormous construction jobs. One project alone, that's East Structure's new data center out in Rocky View County, east of Calgary, is a 205,000 square foot build going up right now. Kevin O'Leary, remember him from Shark Tank? Kevin O'Leary's Wonder Valley down by Grand Prairie is so big it almost doesn't compute. We're talking billions in concrete, steel, electrical, and mechanical work, and the trades get to do all of it. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. These things run on power, a lot of it. And in the United States, we're seeing a lot of communities and states push back on data centers because they take up so much power that there isn't enough to sell to the consumer, to the homeowners, and that drives up prices. But this is why Alberta is winning this race in Canada. Alberta said yes. They passed the legislation, opened up the grid, and let developers bring their own gas-fired generation to the table. Because electricity power is the new oil, and Alberta's sitting on it. On the other hand, we have British Columbia. BC's big data center play, that would be the TELUS AI factories in Vancouver and Kamloops. They're squeezed into whatever BC Hydro can spare in a province where this government won't say the word gas without flinching. Same gold rush, but one province, Alberta, is building the power to win it. The other is just hoping the lights stay on. But what if BC really wanted to get the yes on these and find a way to make data centers a net benefit for all British Columbians? For example, what if it offered a deal to data center builders that if they could build natural gas fired or any other energy source, for all I care, a natural gas fired power plant, they could build it to keep their new centers running. But perhaps a portion of that energy, maybe a third, maybe a half, had to be put back into the BC Hydro grid at low or no cost in order to bring down electricity prices for the rest of us. And before anyone wrings their hands and worried about climate change and pollution and gets all precious about using natural gas to create electricity, remember this. We already ship tons of natural gas south into Donald Trump's America just to have them turn it into electricity and then sell it back to us at a massive markup. We're being blindly and willfully stupid in the service of placating a handful of eco-activists. This natural gas is being turned into electricity anyways. We're just overpaying for it. We're losing on both ends, selling it at a loss, selling natural gas at a loss to the Americans and buying back the electricity at a huge markup from the Americans. Let's stop being stupid. Let's start thinking out of the box. If you pour concrete or pull wire for a living, watch this space. The data center build-out is the biggest industrial construction wave in a generation, and it's going to the places that can power it. And our third story is the pipeline. So mark next Tuesday, July 1st. Actually, it's Wednesday is July 1st, I believe, because that's Canada Day, and there's a real deadline involved. I'm not talking about NHL free agency opening and where Teddy Bluger is going to land up. July 1st is when Alberta files its formal proposal for a new West Coast oil pipeline with the Federal Major Projects Office, a line that hopefully could move more than 1 million barrels a day, with most of that headed to Asia. This all flows out of that Mark Carney, Danielle Smith deal from May. And the promise is federal designation by October 1st and shovels in the ground as early as September 2027. My bet on the route, there's talk of a northern route, there's talk of a route down through the Rockies. My bet is they'll twin the Trans Mountain Pipeline. We just went through the TMX expansion process, Trans Mountain expansion. The route's well known. There are deals in place with the 40 First Nations on the first line. That's a great start to start the second line. So that's my bet, that they'll propose twinning TMX in order to avoid the northern route. Now, Carney and Smith are very clearly trying to get the yes on this. They signed the deal. They set the deadlines. They're moving. But David Eby, still dragging his heels, still pulling out the old NDP toolbox. No. Just saying no to everything. It's time for David Eby to get the yes or to get the hell out of the way. And here's the why it matters stat, and it's ours. ICBA Chief Economist Jock Finlayson has BC real GDP, that's our economy, growing a measly 1.1% this year. His headline says it straight. BC's economy is stuck as housing starts fall off a cliff. 1.1% in BC. In Alberta, 2.3%, more than double. And you've just heard why. One province works to approve the mine, builds the data center, files the pipeline, does whatever it takes to keep projects moving. The other freezes the mine, throttles the power, says no to pipeline, hands over co-governance rights, and puts in so much red tape that it just chokes all creativity and all construction. Those are two bets, two very different outcomes, birthed from two completely different ideologies. And the numbers are proving that one is far more successful than the other. For Jock's full breakdown of both provinces, you should subscribe to ICBA Economics at icba.ca/economics. You'll get his weekly blog, you'll get his op-eds, and you'll also get our Econobot news recap twice a week. Honestly, it's the most helpful email you'll get all week. icba.ca/economics. Subscribe there. That's the show for today. We'll be here Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. If it was useful, please subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. And just do me a favor, send it to one person who builds for a living. I'm Jordan Bateman. This was ICBA Coffee and Construction. Now, let's all go pour something.